There are so many people we can look to when studying the evolution leading to the modern manga landscape, but today we are going to have a look at one key figure in establishing the narrative structure in manga that we know today, as I'd like to point the spotlight on a very prolific writer who emerged in the 1970s, namely Kazuo Koike. In an industry where a single mangaka being in control over both the art and the writing was the norm, Koike was one of the first people to really make a name for himself exclusively as a writer in the manga business, with a library of works containing classics such as Crying Freeman, Lady Snowblood, and most famously Lone Wolf and Cub. You see, Koike was a writer partially emerging from the Gekiga movement of the 60s and 70s, and as such, he had great belief in manga as a medium capable of conveying serious and emotional stories fit for mature audiences. However, around the late 70s, the popularity of traditional Gekiga stories was beginning to decline amongst its target audience, namely young adults, and to combat this, in 1977 Koike opened the Gekiga Sonjuku, a school dedicated to teaching and inspiring young writers and giving them chances at working with professionals and even getting their works published. Some of the most notable students enrolled at the school include Rumiko Takahashi, who would later revolutionize the rom-com genre with works like Urusei Yatsura, Maison Ikkoku, and Inuyasha, Tetsuo Hara, who later became the co-creator of the Fist of the North Star series, Yuji Horii, known as the lead creator of the Dragon Quest series, Keisuke Itagaki, the creator of Baki the Grappler, and Naoki Yamamoto, a familiar name in the Manga Minute series, as he'd move on to create the magazine Manga Erotics F that we covered in a previous episode. From interviews with both Koike himself as well as his students, we get a very clear idea of the focus of his teachings, creating the character as a baseline for the story. Koike was a firm believer in that creating distinct and recognizable characters was the first step it needed in order to create great comics. In fact, he was often endearingly referred to as Character Man for this very reason. In an interview with Dark Horse from 2006, Koike says, "I've only been teaching how to develop characters, never how to construct a storyline. What I always try to do is persuade my students to create a strong character first. If you have a strong character, the storyline will develop naturally on its own." While I want to be careful about making any sensational statements about the school's influence, the title of the video doesn't count, I think we can all agree that distinctive characters are definitely a hallmark of manga and anime as we know it today. I mean, Spot the Main Character is a joke for a reason, and with how many influential figures who learn from Koike directly, the school's influence on the medium as a whole is hard to deny. Another interesting connection can be found in Koike's two-character principle. If you're wondering how I teach my students to create good characters, to give them a starting point, I try to encourage them to make two characters that are polar opposites. God and Satan, night and day, North Pole and South Pole. The struggle between these two characters develop the story. Having just one strong character doesn't work. Once more, we see a theme that has over time become a staple of manga storytelling. The competitive rival or arch-nemesis is something we see not only in the work of Koike's own students, but time and time again in nearly every one of manga's most iconic dramatic stories. And to reel it in a bit at the end, it's obvious that Koike didn't invent character-driven stories. In fact, the strikingly distinctive characters has been a staple of not only manga, but epic narratives in general long before Koike's time, but even so, I think it's undeniable that Kazuo Koike has had a profound influence on the evolution of manga as a storytelling medium. Though the Gekiga Sonjuku officially closed its doors in 1988 after its 8th generation of graduates, Koike did not lose his passion for teaching. In the year 2000, he started doing seminars at Osaka University, and from there he launched several other programs, including an official reopening of the Gekiga Sonjuku in 2006, a web seminar, and several courses for writing in video games and period dramas. With his great passion for writing and teaching, Koike would continue to inspire young artists all the way up until his death at age 82 in 2019. There is a lot of stuff I had to cut out for the sake of brevity, and even then this video is still longer than I usually do for this series, so I'll end it here with a quote from Kengo Kaji, one of Koike's original students, in an essay from earlier this year. There was no Gekiga Sonjuku before the Gekiga Sonjuku, and there will be no Gekiga Sonjuku after it. However, the spirit of creating characters learned at the Gekiga Sonjuku will undoubtedly be passed on to many young lives in the future. For as long as I live as a humble disciple of the character man, I want to continue to pass on that message. Thank you so much for watching. If you're interested in learning more about the Gekiga movement from the 60s that's helped shape Koike's view of manga, then you can check out this episode that I did on the topic. Or if you'd like to learn more about a very peculiar manga magazine founded by one of Koike's students, then check out this video on Manga Erotics F. This has been Avantgarde, and I'll see you next time.